Something I always say is you have to be able to see everyone in your classroom. You have to try your best to see everyone in the classroom, not just the ones that you think will go into dance career, because those who will go into a dance career, we already know they will do additional work. They might have their private lessons. They might be forwarded to some associate classes. But it's very important to me that every child or every young dancer feels that their work in the classroom is as important as someone who might be taking an exam if they don't. Nice to meet you finally.
Yeah, lovely to meet you, Dilek. Do I say your name right?
Say it very correctly. I'm very impressed.
Yeah, because I read you are originally from Turkey.
Yes, so I've got Turkish background, but I was born and raised in Germany. So there is this slight accent in my English that people can't really figure out where it's from.
Yeah, but amazing. And so you had the best of both worlds.
I believe so, yes. I mean, it's always interesting to grow up between such different cultures and then enter an utterly different culture of dance world as well.
Yeah, but also that's where dance also has, like you say, its own culture, and it's sort of bringing everybody together.
Definitely. Yes, it was, very interesting because, from my Turkish background, there wasn't much of, how do I say, there wasn't any ballet connection in my family or theater connection. So it's sometimes funny how a tiny moment in life can take you into a very different direction.
Yeah, true. I mean, that just shows you there are no coincidences, and you are placed where you're supposed to grow.
I like that.
Yeah, I totally believe that. And so how did you, so you say you're not from a family where somebody is a dancer, so you didn't know the whole route that you have to take. So how did you end up in ballet class?
So it was interesting. So I did always like classical music. Again, just in old times we didn't have all the mobile phones and internet as such. From my generation, I was very much listening to what was Classic FM on the radio as I was doing homework or doing some art coursework. And so I did always love classical music, and I remember so clearly. It was a weekend afternoon, and my sister and I, we were watching this, I believe it's from the 1978 screening of the movie Dances with Baryshnikov and Alessandra Ferri. It's
oh, really?
It's a movie with all the ballet icons back then. And I was just so impressed with this man leaping across the stage. It wasn't the ballerinas in their tutus. It was just his sheer power. And out of nowhere, my sister just said, would you like to try a ballet class? Shall we go and try a ballet class? She's older than me. So we managed to find a local school, and she had her trial lesson, and I was just watching in the corner, just taking it all in. And my trial lesson was supposed to be the following day, but my sister, who took me along everywhere back then, so watched everything. The next day I had my trial lesson, which I believe was a similar structure, and I had just soaked up everything from the day before. And I remember the teachers asking, have you done this before? No, as a young
really?
And that's how it started, really. And from children's ballet once a week, at some point I just wanted to do more and more and more. So yeah, it's quite nice to see how I am now at that stage where I see children wanting to do more and more at my school. So it's a full cycle.
Yeah, and what I love also is when teachers recognize that, that they can understand that, and they understand how much some of these girls really want it, and how hard they work, and that as a dancer yourself, you can appreciate that.
Absolutely. I think I definitely appreciate that because, I didn't come from a background where the family was supporting the further education in dance. So it was very much a stubborn young girl auditioning in secret without my parents knowing, until I knew I had a place to study. So I think I come from a slight different approach of appreciating the journey there, and just feel very happy to be able to pass that on, especially when I see children who might not naturally have that opportunity to kind of step in and maybe say to certain parents, I see something in this child, would you like me to support you to help with further training? So
yeah, and it's also, like you say, if the parents don't know the path that the child has to take, and ballet is not, it's not an easy path to take, and you have to really train from a young age. It's not like anything else where you can decide when you're 18, oh, I want to be a dancer. You already have to have all these basic the basic ground phases by the time you reach 18.
Yeah, and a certain amount of maturity as well. I find we're incredibly mature at such a young age, just mentally, that knowledge of I am going, I might be dropping some other hobbies, but because I want to do more of this, because you have to do more of it to achieve what you're looking for.
And of course, not everybody can become professional dancers, even though their hearts want to be. But that's also something that, as a teacher, I think you have to really deal with.
Yeah, and I think to prepare the students to, I do always say, and I do actually appreciate my parents being very strong in make sure your academics are at a certain level. I do support that very much, because exactly like you say, if the path doesn't work out, it doesn't mean we can't do anything else. Actually, quite contrary, I think dancers really adapt quickly to what is given to them. Yeah. So, but it's good to know, or to suggest, keep your A-levels going. Here in the UK, they have got their A-levels, with maybe the school that you are looking for, just to keep your options open. I know we are better nowadays with offering different career paths after we didn't have that so much in the past. I find it was very clear you either maybe do something utterly different or you go into teaching. But that's I feel like that really is changing now. And I think that's a very good thing. Or teaching dancers how to manage themselves, and also to learn managing skills and administrative skills. Again, for me, that was something I had to learn on the go. But I do believe training nowadays is, at least at a lot of good schools, better in maybe evaluating yourself more than just a member in the company.
And I think it's also that misconception, because when they're young and they want to be a ballet dancer and they want to be in a company, but there's such a huge world of dance outside a ballet company. And I think if children from a young age can understand that their creativity and their artistic quality can also be of benefit to them for creating, rather than just sticking to one idea of being a ballet dancer.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it was quite interesting. You might have seen, I just had my dance school show recently.
I did see on Instagram, yeah.
Yes. So, and at some point, I just felt like I was a producer, a costume designer, creating or coming up with ideas for the set. Of course, there were people helping, but when it's a smaller setting like a dance school, you don't have that large team around you like a company has. So you do a little bit of everything, and I just thought, as a young dancer, I always thought, oh, I'm not good enough to choreograph. But actually, no, we are. If we're given the time and also confidence to play around, which I kind of found the love for it just recently again. It was utterly exhausting.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah.
It was also really beautiful to step away from repertoire that I knew because we recreated this ballet and, to go back into just creating rather than just the teaching part of it. That was really lovely for me because I hadn't connected to that for such a long time.
And I think also in dancers, I saw your production. I mean, I saw the photographs you posted, and I thought you do it so amazingly because you make it, you make them experience what it is like in a company, all these things and the whole process. And I think sometimes also that's part of the building those skills, understanding how to put up something like this, the work behind it. And like you say, also the choreography and the costumes and the makeup and everything that goes into that.
Yes, definitely. And like you just said, it's building skills, but it's also building skills outside of the dance world. I always see teaching, not just as me teaching ballet, because I do mostly teach ballet, but I always think we are teaching life skills in those lessons. It might not seem as much, but even once a week, I believe my heart really lies with educating and teaching how to work in a group, how to respect everyone else, how to work with different views, and you might not like this choreography, but you will still be part of the group in that moment. So it's not just teaching dance; it definitely is teaching life skills, and that is a big point for me in teaching. I think I enjoy that part incredibly.
Well, I spoke to a teacher or a director of a drama school that working with people with young children, and she said that it's almost as if society now it's all about children grow up, it's all about me, but now the moment you put them into theater groups or dance groups or music groups, the focus is away from the me and you start learning to work with somebody else, and focus on the team rather than just yourself.
Yes, I couldn't agree more. It really, I always find we have to learn all these skills first, and then it can become maybe a bit more of me if you want to explore your own way. But we just have to lay the basis for children or also adults. I mean, I teach all age ranges. So I try to have a little input into all the different ages that I teach, because I feel like it keeps me more excited about my different teaching approaches.
Yes.
Definitely the younger ones keep that creativity going just with the odd little funny comment they come up to, and where I as an adult think, oh, I've never thought of it that way. Because they're just incredibly visionary, isn't it, the children with their ideas. And then you go and teach an adult class where you have to be really careful with, what the body can do at a certain stage. And you look at safe practice alongside the recreational side of ballet. So I try to keep it mixed with the ages I teach as well.
And I love that. I saw on your website also, I love that because I think it makes ballet you show that ballet is so accessible for every age group, that we don't always just think, well, that was the time I had my chance to dance, but now, it's over. And you make it available for people my age, to do that.
Of course. I mean, I've got a lovely group of senior dancers, and it's a lot of people who had danced as children, maybe up to ages 15, 16, and then school and uni and work life interrupted.
Yeah.
They're, pretty regular training. So, and then they have come back years later. So they're very capable, and I do hope that I give them that excitement and opportunity they wouldn't get if they were just taking classes. But they are part of the production, and they are really hands-on, and they might be helping with stitching costumes or even doing design. And I think that really creates a community, and they will also be role models for the younger ones. So I do find it important to let the children be part of that process and look up to a slightly more mature generation of dancers. And, I get that currently it's always post-show that they say, when can we do these roles? When are we ready to go?
Really? Ah, yeah.
It's adorable. Yeah. So, yeah.
But it's true, because you have to see what you're working towards. I think that's also an important thing, is I think, and that also keeps children sort of motivated and showing, okay, this is where you're heading to.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we try to mix it up. So we try to do 1 year of ballet exams, which I find are a good way of aiming towards something. They don't have to take exams, but they want to be at that standard of the grade or vocational level they're training, as I do teach the RAD system as well. And then 1 year we do shows. So it's a nice mix of both.
Do you think that, because you are working with dancers who are not necessarily, I mean, you have dancers that will become professional dancers, but I'm sure you're working with young dancers who are really doing it for the love of it, for the art form of it. Yes. So how important is it for you to instill this love of ballet and not the pressure of, okay, you're not good enough, you won't have a career, but so you don't have a chance, rather than helping them to appreciate the art form?
Yes, I mean, something I always say is you have to be able to see everyone in your classroom. Mm. You have to try your best to see everyone in the classroom, not just the ones that you think will go into dance career, because those who will go into a dance career, we already know they will do additional work. They might have their private lessons. They might be forwarded to some associate classes. But it's very important to me that every child or every young dancer feels that their work in the classroom is as important as someone who might be taking an exam if they don't. And I always make that very clear to parents, because taking exams or taking ballet can also be costly for some families. Yeah. It isn't, we have a very privileged community in ballet, but not everyone comes from that background. I was a scholarship child, so we have to be able to offer these children exactly the same, and then it's up to them how much they also take on from what we offer. Exactly. Mm. I always find we also, as teachers, we can't spoon feed everyone. I always expect my students, if I give them the work, I expect some work back. Yeah. I'm adamant that way, because I do think we are going through a strange phase with education, where I do find there is a lot of pressure on teachers, and teachers getting everything right. If someone didn't achieve something, it's usually the teacher's fault. But I do think it's a give and take. And I always say that to my students. I'm giving you all the information. Now it's your turn to give back to me. within whatever range their capability is, you know, the turnout, the height of the legs, but I have to see them work.
Yeah, no, I do agree, because otherwise it doesn't have a purpose.
And I feel like then I would feel like I give so much more from something I'm so passionate about. I have to be fed back as a teacher as well. I have to get these moments of inspiration. And that can be someone, you know, finally aligning their body and holding a balance for longer, which happened yesterday. And I could see that moment of just clicked in the student's body, and she could bring it all together, and she was standing there beautifully. So that, of course, is a moment of achievement for me, because it means everything I have given her has come together. But it has to be a give and take. And I do think we are at a very difficult position as teachers in the current state, because we have so much new information coming up, so much of new teaching strategies with all the different learning approaches. So we are quite overwhelmed in general as a community, and we have to do our job well. I'm not saying sit back, but you know, there is a lot of work on us and expectation. So I think it's okay for us to also expect from our students.
I totally agree. And I think also it's that that idea that children also learn, look, you know, you have to be committed to achieve results, and that these dancers who are on stage or who have careers as dancers, it's a lot of hard work and a lot of dedication going into it, and that it's not just a snap of a finger and you're there.
And a quick process. It is.
Yeah.
And that's something I say to my adult dancers for sure, because, you know, again, just yesterday, I have this lovely group that I teach at the City Literary Institute. And I said, so what have you learned this term? And they were very humble. They came up with tiny little snippets.
Really?
And I said, don't be so hard on yourself. I might not be someone who says well done to every little bit that you do. That's just my persona. I often say, well done, shall we try to get this right? That's a lot of my approach. You know, we're all different. But I said to them, don't be so negative, because you are trying to learn so much in what a dancer learns every day over several hours. You can't fit that into a crash course and expect to immediately turn your double pirouettes. It takes time. But I do try to encourage them that way to, you know, to work hard, but to appreciate everything they have learned as well.
I think it's also that taking responsibility and also understanding your body and your improvement, that it's not always the same as everybody else, but that you can acknowledge when you have done the work.
Yeah, it's that comes back to, again, I'm talking a lot about teacher training as well, and where we are with knowledge of teaching different bodies. You know, the teacher training I had many years ago, it was really excessive, over 3 years, with an understanding of some psychology, body basics, understanding of anatomy. We have condensed that all nowadays. So, of course, having that knowledge when you go out as a young teacher, you'd have to accumulate it for so long. But there is a lack of detail, because we want everything so quickly done these days. And it's just such a shame, because it's so important to know how we teach different bodies, you know, how a sway back leg is different from a straight leg. I am trying to be a bit of an advocate in understanding good teaching standards.
And it's no, but and also important for the students that go on to be professional dancers, because it also gives them, for their careers, that foundation of understanding their bodies.
Definitely. I mean, just healthcare in dance is so much more advanced now. Where I do remember a situation was the pre-exam and I had an injury and I was given a cortisol injection to get over it. So could have gotten worse. It was fine, but that was the treatment back then, whereas now it would be very clear you rest, your body needs to rest, and just, you obviously need more conditioning to avoid those injuries. So the knowledge is so much more advanced now. And again, as teachers, we need to try our best to bring some of that into the classroom, which isn't easy, because if they only attend 2 lessons a week, or sometimes just 1 lesson a week,
oh yes,
it's difficult to fit that all into a schedule. But I think we have to be aware of all of this and somehow try to incorporate some of that.
But I mean, just what we talked about now isn't that so important, really, that we see dance and we see the value of dance also in the education system?
Yeah, definitely. It's interesting because we can incorporate dance in the everyday education system, but even there, so I have seen some of that. It's about who teaches it and how much do these people know that teacher. It's great to say we're offering music and dance lessons, but if the quality of those lessons isn't great, then I always find myself a bit in disarray. What are we gaining out of that? So again, it comes back to having not just qualified people, but it's really difficult because I don't always think that just a sheet of paper of a certain certificate says that you are a good teacher.
But then it comes also to the point where a school wouldn't employ just any maths teacher or just any science teacher, so why would they then think of dance in such a way that they think, oh well, I will just employ anybody who would want to do it? So there is the problem. I think there the education should be more appreciative of the value of what art brings in the school.
But I guess that's also a big problem is as to how we value ourselves as artists in the workforce. There have been so many moments where I just thought, but why shouldn't I allow myself, for example, a certain rate or something that someone is expected to have? A very, very funny situation is many years ago at a vocational dance school that I taught. It was a staff meeting and the secretary came into the staff room and we had a dance team meeting, and they always struggled with parking slots for whoever was driving into school. And the secretary spoke about this fancy label of cars. Is this anyone's car? And the head of the department on that day said, well, we are the dance team. We wouldn't have that car. And for a moment, everybody had a giggle, but in my head, I thought, why? We're not supposed to have this car? What makes us less valuable to have this accessory, whatever it is, but what makes us as artists less valuable than the academic person that might have this car? And that's a problem that we have also created within us, or we have taken it along, and we are not breaking that chain. Or we're trying nowadays, but it's still there.
Well, I do agree with you, and this was the question I also asked during lockdown when I did my photography project, and also why I was motivated to do this channel. And this is, why are art is not valued? Why is art seen as something on the side or something to just as an entertainment? And in schools, it's something like on a Friday, 1 hour singing. Yet if you go and I'm busy reading a book now, Your Brain on Art, if you see the positives that art brings, if you see the healing that art brings, then you think, why are we not pushing art in the schools like crazy?
Yes.
Like putting it alongside maths and sciences, and valuing it and teaching children, because I think that's where it comes from. It's like, oh, you shouldn't take drama because you have to go into a career where you can earn money. But who says you couldn't earn money from drama? That's the thing. That's that mentality that we teach our children, and then they teach their children, and then that's the cycle of art.
Exactly. And I think it's really important to break that cycle, but it can also only break if you maybe say, I won't do this job for free, because
exactly, yeah.
This is work. I'm not just doing this for the passion. I'm lucky enough to have gone into something I was passionate about, but that's a different matter. This is my work. It's maybe a little bit like, offering all this free work on social media. I always wonder which lawyer would offer free work on social media. I just don't understand. I understand that we give in a snippets of what your work might be like to show, your personality maybe, or the qualities you're looking at. But even during lockdown, you'll remember there was so much just free work on social media, and I remember being really confused as to what do I do? How do I offer my lessons? And there was a lovely parent who actually said, well, according to my knowledge, you are offering a service, so you charge for that service. And sometimes it needs some lovely people like that to just
exactly to remind you. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's interesting. We're trying. I know there's a cohort of teachers that I know very well as well. And, we are trying to, maybe set those standards and set our values as well. It's not easy because it's also a very busy branch, and a lot of people, of course, there are stepping stones, but maybe at some point in your life, you need to say, this is my value, and I cannot do it for less than this value.
But don't you think also, parents, if people start talking more about, like we talked about now, what is the value that art that dance brings? Your child will be able to do this and this and this and this. They will be able to, work together in a group. They take all these skills, there's so many skills that they take with them in whatever they're going to do. So even if they become a lawyer and they did dancing, there will be some skills that they've learned in dancing that, I was thinking also when my children were younger, just the fact that you have to wear be proud of your uniform, tidy with your uniform, that your hair has to be neat and tidy. That in itself, is for me already a big thing, because that will teach you to go out in whatever you do and be proud of your uniform or your outfit or your look or whatever,
Exactly. I guess there are so many different views nowadays about uniform, yes, no, and should they be free spirits? I always think every child needs some boundaries to grow up in, and then they will be strong enough to go and explore. But we have to give them that set of boundaries. I do chat a lot to my sister, who's a psychotherapist as well, when I'm at the end of knowing what to do, because I'm not the specialist, but there are situations where I might say, what do you think? It's important for us as well to go and get help from more professional people who who will, just say something and it will all make sense and your approach will change to a certain situation. But I totally agree.
Yeah.
There has to be, don't mind, which uniform they might want, but come once a week or twice a week. You have special on, and you present yourself, and you will go to a job interview and you will present yourself in a certain way later in life. So
no, absolutely. Yeah, no, I absolutely agree with you. But talk about your performance that you did, the ballet. It was Alice in Wonderland.
It was Alice in Wonderland, and of course, it's the our inspiration was the current Royal Ballet version created by Christopher Gilman, and with amazing set design by Bob Crowley. And that was, of course, our inspiration. But the reason why I staged it now is that 10 years ago, I'll come back to that, how the school started. But 10 years ago, it was the first time I decided to stage something in a theatre, in a professional theatre with my school. I don't know if it was a lot because I wanted it as well. just to have that feeling of stage again. So that was Alice in Wonderland back then. And I just thought, 10 years later, with all of these little kids having grown into young adults,
yes,
it was like a circle of ballet life, I called it. So we came back with the same ballet, but recreated. I mean, the score by Joby Talbot is infuriating at times, so complicated for younger dancers, but absolutely beautiful. So it was really enjoyable for me to dive into this score that I really didn't know well enough. I had just seen the production twice. But just diving into music is, I think that's where my inspiration in general comes from. I'm someone guided by music. So picking that score I had to change it, of course. We didn't go with that music for that group. The original was, because I did want to go away from the original choreography. But it was really exciting and it was complicated for the kids. But again, musical education is so important. And I'm not someone who can play an instrument. Reading notes is like Egyptian writing for me, but I know I was one of the most musical ones in my class. But just teaching musical education, it's numeracy, clapping the beat, trying to say, listen, the music changes here. We can't count it. We cannot count it, but can you hear the music is changing? And I thought they did really well. So we had to come up with all these handmade props.
Create. Oh, wonderful. Yes, how creative. Problem solving.
Yes, exactly. It's problem solving, figuring out, okay, we don't have this budget that the Royal Opera House has. What can we make with what we have? So, and I think within our range, we've been quite creative in that. Managed to do some animation and work on the choreography. I had a lovely ex-student who has danced with Matthew Bourne as well, come in and do
Really? Oh,
this.
wow.
So that was really lovely to see. I always love inviting some ex-students who are off. One is at San Francisco Ballet, and they come, and it's just a little moment of inspiration and knowing they all started in a local school and were just given the correct path to go to.
Exactly. Again, that inspiration of where can this lead to when I work hard?
Yeah, exactly. And so with the school, it was interesting because I never really planned to have a school. Funny enough, it was just a small group that I covered for some time when I pretty much stopped dancing, and I was teaching at the art educational schools. I was teaching vocational dancers, and I had this small group of kids that I kind of took over once a week, and that just grew, and it just grew. And at some point, it was a mum who had started it off, who moved away. So I took that over, and it just became my school. So it was
wonderful.
which is quite funny. So, and that's why 10 years ago, it was our first time that we staged something in a theatre.
Well, so it's not you that chose the school chose you.
Yes, that's one way of putting it.
So you are supposed to be there. I believe that.
I believe so, yes. It was, it's nice to, as teachers, once we leave stage, and it can be quite lonely if you think you mostly teach. So I do think that feeling of staging something and going back into that creation is definitely, I know I gain so much from it as a person, not as a teacher. So it's finding those little moments that keep us inspired and keep us feel like we're not just giving, we are setting up a production or whatever that is for every teacher, but we're definitely gaining something of our passion from that.
My son was 9 years old when their ballet school, the little local ballet school where he went to, when they did their first performance. And the first time he came off the stage, the first night when, where there was an audience and everything, he came running to me and he said to me, "Mom, this is what I want to do. This makes me so happy." And I think, this was he did many ballet classes, never had that enthusiasm, but there it was that night. He was so excited. So I think it's great that you as a teacher do something like that.
It's special, isn't it? I guess it's again that feeling of reward of something you have worked towards, and of mastering something. It's an incredible satisfaction we get as humans from mastering something and working towards, and then being able to show it. It just creates this. I mean, our hormones must just go firework like that moment. They do. I know. I'm usually utterly exhausted afterwards and feel like there's no creativity left. It'll come back, but it just does something beautiful to everyone, also to the audience. I had so lovely feedback of just saying it's so emotional. It's parents who have followed that path as well. Who said it was very emotional to just see all these little kids having grown up and to where it led to. And I guess they knew how much kids were involved as well. You know, they were, I don't know, painting some signs or putting a flower on or asking, shall we take the props to this room? So again, it's life lessons of working together.
Absolutely. And like I say, if because I saw on your Instagram page, and I love that there was a little interview also with a girl, you know, talking about her role and what she's doing. And I thought, you're doing it so beautifully, you know, that you're doing it so that it's almost like a mini professional company.
Yes, I guess that's what I would like it to be as well. You know, while we're saying everyone works within their capability and you know, their level as well, I guess I just have that urge always to do better. That's just something that I believe I have been educated with, and I try to pass that on because I do think it's a good skill to have. But also seeing what is going on. It's not just about creating a wow effect. It's about showing what goes into creating this. That's really important for me, for people to see. Even for what we as teachers do, you know, we had some like little backstage snippets of, yes, we are there with the headphones and then we're directing people. We don't see enough of that. We just see the image. Mm-hmm. And that's one of the reasons why I always try to do a narrative ballet, because I would like parents not to just sit and watch their own child's dance, but I would like them to follow the story and watch all the children. Of course, you'll be, you know, accelerated when you see your own child, but it's nice to see just the development of it all.
Exactly, yeah. No, I totally agree with you. I must tell you that I recently spoke to a costume designer, and she was giving me sort of behind the scenes of what it is to do costume design. And she was talking about also not every theater has it all, you know, that it's just tapping into this and that and getting this. As a costume designer, they sometimes also have to improvise and think creatively and find a solution, you know. And I think the way you're doing it and the way you're describing of doing the production, but really having to think out of the box and thinking and creatively, that's part of most people's creative life, you know.
Yes, that's true. I mean, I do need a long break after this one.
Yeah.
And I said to my students, I said, I like you all very much, but I really need a break from teaching. It's allowing ourselves to recharge and, you know, take that time. It's definitely something I have to learn. But, you know, I think having a little bit that chance of creating whatever it is, be it a piece of music, a piece of dance, coming up with costumes, which isn't my forte, but, you know, suddenly I thought, oh, maybe we just add a little neck ruff to it, and the whole thing looked different. It's you know, I think we have to think outside of dance as well. As dancers, as ex-dancers, we have to get inspired. You know, I looked at some fashion, I looked at some other staging, or just, again, kids come up with the most amazing ideas when it comes to these kind of things. And, you know, they said, oh, we could wave the scarf, and there was waving. You know, they give you all these fabulous ideas. I can't take credit for everything.
But amazing that you give them the opportunity to do it as well, because then it's not your show; it's their show as well.
Exactly, it's a joint venture. But no, it was. I would say it was a success from our point of view. With
amazing.
We had, and I'll be sharing more snippets just to see what everyone did.
Yeah, no, it sounds beautiful. But Dilek, what are the wishes for you? What is the dream?
I'm not really sure. I believe I'm a bit of a restless creature.
Okay.
Then there is always something, the next thing, the next thing. I'm saying I need to relax now, and then I'll be looking for the next venture. It's a couple of things. It's definitely, I utterly enjoy continuing with the school and keep working on that side of educating, mentoring. I did some mentoring for young teachers as well, which is something I would be interested in as well, but it has to be the right setting. And this is maybe why I'm advocating good standards of teaching and awareness of, how much you have to know. I know that I take knowledge from my dancing days and from my teacher training, but it's been years of gathering knowledge and watching other people and observing and coming up with new ideas on, if something doesn't work. You have to keep so on top, literally on the point, on top of things to constantly evolve in this job, I believe. So that's definitely a point of interest. And currently, I feel like I could create another whole show once I'm rested.
Oh, okay. So more shows coming up.
Maybe with a little break, but again, it's just been really joyful to put the headphones on, feel the music, feel like what that part tells me to do. Someone else will have a different scene, but I really enjoyed that kind of creative process.
And it's, I think I do agree with you. I think the way ballet has been taught, maybe it worked for those days, but I think also now, I wonder sometimes how many dancers slip through the net because of teachers, that you think they could have been great artists, but there was just that point where they had the wrong teacher.
Yeah, definitely. And just teaching approaches, negative teaching approaches, were definitely more dominant, I would say, in my time. And maybe that's one of the reasons why I don't often say, I notice that and I'm trying to change it. Well done, if I think it could be better.
Yeah.
It's something I'm learning. And equally, one of the young teachers I was mentoring, she said, well done to everything. And I said, but why are you saying well done to everything they do? It could be better. So it's finding a balance.
Yeah.
But we were definitely taught in a dare to say more negative way. I also know that some of the strictest teachers I had the biggest imprint on me. But that is my personality. Now, I know that didn't suit everyone else. And that's where the knowledge is better. What might work with one student doesn't work with the other. So we have to be aware at how we approach each different personality and still be able to overlook the group, which is really quite difficult.
Yeah, no, I do agree. But so great that you have interest in that, because I think this is also preparing the teachers for the next generation of dancers.
Yes, and many skills like self-valuing yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
Things. It's finding ways of. I do discuss with some of my colleagues as well. How can we approach that? Maybe without being bound to an organization, just advocate a bit more of, good teaching skills and making people aware of what good teaching. And I'm not saying that I'm a good teacher, but I have accumulated a lot of knowledge by now, and I think I can pass that on. can I be better? Of course I can, but it's coming up to a certain standard where, even on a day off that we all are allowed to have, I can still teach well. And I think that's important to be able to do.
Even if it's full moon.
Yeah, and be inspired by other things around us, and not lose view of what's going on, and that can include political events as well. So even challenging thought processes without putting your own thought onto people. It's having your eyes everywhere, and this is why I don't know what the future will bring.
Yeah. No, it's true. It's true. But I think you're doing a great job. You can see from your students as well that they love it and that they enjoy it. So you're doing it right, I believe.
Thank you.
But thank you so much for your time. This was so great to talk to you. I love your insights into teaching. And I think teachers, I talk to many artists and it's always, for me, interesting that there's always a teacher that inspired them. It's always, I had a teacher when I was 7 and she or he, so I do realize the importance of teachers in art, in all forms of art.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I guess without certain people, I wouldn't have gone into the teaching, not just teaching part, the dancing part as well. And, it was a tiny comment from this person, a tiny comment from that, and, taking me from one country then over to another country. And I think it is those, and they're so present in our head, those people, although they might not even know about it. It's so important with whatever you are doing, whatever art form.